Hello everyone, happy Tie-Dye Friday. Today we're going to do test batches, and this is something that for me at first was very foreign and now is second nature and really simple. Test batches are so important because this is how you're going to know if you're going to buy that batch of chocolate or work with those beans that you have now got a sample of. We often get 1 or 2 kilo sample bags that represent the larger batch that we may purchase. And before we do that greater purchase, where we buy, say, 3 tons or 12 tons, whatever it might be, we need to do a sample batch. And so the first thing you do is, after analyzing them and tasting them, you have to create a test batch sheet and then print it out, and then this will then follow you while you do that entire test batch. And it's your notes, and it prevents you from making mistakes down the line because you know what ratios of ingredients you've added. So we're going to get into this. I like doing a 1 kilo size batch, and this is really simple because it's 1,000 grams. And so our ratio for our test batches is, once we have nibs, it would be 600 grams of nibs, 100 grams of butter, and then 300 grams of sugar. That equals 1,000 grams. We have a sheet, an Excel spreadsheet, and so what you guys are about to see here is we have the date, then we have the test batch number, where the beans came from, and then the formulation of whether it's dark, milk, or whatever flavor it might be. We then have the date that it's expired or best by, and the size. So the first thing I'm going to do is, in the nib weight category, I'm going to write 600 grams, and then everything is going to fill in according to that ratio, that proportion. And so now what we have is exactly what I just mentioned. We have 600 grams of nibs, 100 grams of cocoa butter, and 300 grams of sugar. I like this ratio because for me, I can really taste the nuances that are going on in these beans. Whether there's flaws or whether there's beautiful characteristics, we're going to find out. And I even roast to try and bring these out. I tend to do a light medium roast, or I'll try and just do the very best for the raw bean that I taste. I'm going to try and bring out those flavors that I think showcase it the best. And so this ratio for me is what I'm happiest with over the last 10 years. And so now you can see we've got 18 bars that I'd expect out of this 1 kilo batch. It's often good to hand temper it as well, just so you can see what the chocolate's like as a finished chocolate bar. But you don't have to create a sheet like this. If you're just messing around at home, you can just write, 1,000, and then you can break it down and go, okay, 60% of 1,000 is 600. 30% for sugar would be 300. And then 10% for cocoa butter, that would be 100, and that equals 1,000. If you want to do half this size, because these test grinders often work well with half that amount of chocolate. You really don't need that much to do a test batch. You just cut everything in half and you got the same test batch. So now let's take a look at what 1 kilo actually looks like. 600 grams of nibs, 300 grams of sugar, 100 grams of cocoa butter. That's what this looks like. Now some tricks. If you take the nibs and you crush them or put them in some type of blender, they turn into a paste right away, and it becomes very easy to then dump them into your grinder. Especially because these little grinders are just so weak. You need to, if you want to do it quicker, you pre-crush them. Sugar is what's going to take the longest to refine because every single one of these little guys is a crystal that needs to fracture so many times so that it's smooth and creamy. And that way you can also, when it's the micron size gets smaller on the sugar crystals, you can taste what's going on better. So for cocoa butter, there's a few tricks here. It has to get melted, so you can do this with a heat gun or a microwave. And you want to add most of the cocoa butter with the sugar, because the sugar is what's going to be most difficult for the grinder to grind, and the cocoa butter is going to help that and make it easier on the motor. For more information on this, we actually did an episode, it's episode number 30, on how we loaded a small grinder, and it goes into more details. So this, for me, is what works. I know it'll be very helpful for anyone who's making chocolate at home for fun or for doing experimental batches trying to scale their company. Good luck, happy chocolate making. See you next time.